video gaming has gone so far so fast that like us three used to be top tier gamers, and now you have professionals, and right below them you have streamers who play 8 to 12 hours of video games a day, and us three are below them a little bit by about this much. But I've played with some of those pros on stream, and I swear to fucking God, bro, I've never seen anything like them. They fucking are 1,000 miles an hour pushing everything all the fucking time. So skill-based matchmaking is kind of required. There's a reason that I played Fortnite in the beginning and I didn't play Fortnite in the end, is because every single game, if I felt like I was having a good game, no matter what, at least with 50 players left, I run into a kid cranking 90s. Cranking them. And that's just not... Bro, you should be playing against people close to your level at some point. At some point. That's how tournaments are ran. That's competition. If you enjoy competition, why does it make you mad to play sweats?
Here's why it makes me mad, Doug. If you want to have a competitive game...
Ranked. Yes, you're right.
Yes, exactly. That's not... Pub matches is not the place for skill-based matchmaking. Period. And by the way, as you said, most players are between 0.8 and 1.2. Technically, most players are 1.0, dead even. But that's exactly what you said, basically. So if you go into a lobby as an average player, most of the players in your lobby will be average. That is statistics. That is how that works. So skill-based matchmaking doesn't help shit-tier players. All it does is harm good players because it makes us all play against each other, and we can't use any other weapon than an MP5 or a fucking Grau.
Terrible
and it is
reference.
Exhausting and boring. I can't fucking run around and use a Bison. I can't use a Mark II. I can't use anything except an MP5 or a fucking Grau, or I'm gonna get just shit on because everyone's just as good as I am. And if they're using a meta weapon and I'm not, they're gonna win 100% of gunfights. So skill-based matchmaking has no place for pubs. I understand the theory behind it, like, oh, we want to protect the new frogs, but every lobby is going to have mostly new frogs because that's how statistics works. Most people are average. So if you're an average player, most of your lobbies will be filled with mostly average people. By definition. Literally by definition. So all skill-based matchmaking does is it harms good players. It doesn't help bad players. I think
definitely helps bad players.
No way. No way.
No way.
No, of course not. Because either way, your lobby is going to be filled with average players. If you're an average player and there's no skill-based matchmaking, your lobby will be filled with average players because most players are average. That is what average means. That is the definition of average.
Skilled. You said lower skilled.
Well, lower than us, I mean.
Average is lower skilled.
Average is lower skilled than you and I and Tanner are.
I'm talking about the real lower skilled players. SBMM helps them the most. That's what it's there for. The super casual trash kids.
Yeah, but how are they going to get better? That's the thing.
It's not even about them getting better. It's about them having fun.
Right, but you'll have more fun if you do better. And if you're a 0.5 person and everyone is 0.5 in your lobby, you might not get shit on as hard, but you're not going to do well because everyone is as good as you are because you're all terrible. But you're never going to learn anything, and you're never going to improve your skill, and you're never going to do better. Because if I'm in a lobby full of 0.5 KD players, I can get away with things that are just absurd that I could never do in my own lobby. Like if I'm in a lobby, if it's me and a bunch of 11.5 Andys, I could play with a fucking knife and get a nuke and just clown on kids and do dumb shit, wide peek everything, hip fire all the time. And if that was the only thing I was exposed to, then I would never learn how to play against a good player if I were to ever meet one. So you might be right that it helps really dog shit players be protected, but then you're just never going to get better. And by the way, if you're a 0.5 Andy in a lobby with all 0.5 Andys, you're never going to have a great game because everyone's just as skilled as you are. So even though you're trash and everyone else is trash, you're still trash. So you're still going to do average, and that's not fun. What's fun for everyone is doing really well. And if you eliminate the opportunity to get better, then you also eliminate the opportunity for that 0.5 Andy to ever do really well in the future because you're not learning how to do really well.
My argument would be is that skill-based matchmaking is not as tight as you're referencing it right now. It's not nearly that tight. If you're in that very lower bracket, you play people between 0.3 to like 0.7. If you're like a 0.5er, it's like a 0.2 difference based on what Exclusive and Drifter and all those guys have posted before.
Okay.
And second of all is that it definitely helps you get better, bro. I know for a fact from playing with those guys who are better than me recently, and like coming from a competitive standpoint in real life as an athlete, I get better at sports playing with people better than me. So I definitely get your reference.
Yes.
Like I have to learn from them. But there comes a point to where you realize that you can't keep up with them even if you're learning what you're supposed to be. That you just don't have what they have. And at some point, you reach that spot. And it doesn't matter. And these people with like a 0.5 KD, even if everybody in their room is a 0.5 KD, they're having a 10 times more enjoyable time than if SBMM was turned off and there's one of fucking me or you in their lobby doing everything you said you'd be doing. You'd be embarrassing them. There's nothing fun about playing a game when you know there's one guy on the other team who's just absolutely fucking shitting on your face every time you see him. And that's just a fact. I mean, I if I was terrible at video games, I'd be begging for this shit to stay around. I'd absolutely beg for it. Because I know I was mediocre at Fortnite, and the main thing that pushed me away was that there wasn't. You know, I'm not a huge fan of SBMM. It needs to be tuned perfectly. And that's the issue. It needs to be tuned perfectly. Right now, the issue they're facing is it goes from like a 0.3 to like a 0.7, and then from like a 0.7 to like a 1.1, and then 1.2 to 1.8, and then all the fucking top dogs. And those guys have 6 KDs to 5 KDs in Warzone have to play each other. And those streamers play each other and end up killing each other way more than anything I've ever seen in a game as massive as this. Mm-hmm. So it gets too strict at the high levels, and it needs to be stricter at the lower levels, in my opinion. Put the 0.33 fucking scrubs all together. Put the 0.44 scrubs all together. When you get above a 1.5 KD, that's when you get to the point, Raz, where you're talking about you learn from playing against better. If you're just learning how to dribble a basketball, you're not going to learn shit from going to play at your local court. You're just going to get your ass kicked all fucking day, and it's not fun. You got to at least have some training wheels to go off of.
Okay, fair. But first of all, if you are a 0.5 Andy and there's no skill-based matchmaking, most of your lobbies are not going to have anyone who is very good at the game shitting on them. It's not like every lobby is going to have people just fucking dunking on them. That's not how averages work. I mean, if there's no skill-based matchmaking, I mean, it depends on the playlist, of course, and how big the teams are. But most of the time, the highest KD in there is going to be 1.2. I mean, this is how averages work. So let's say we're playing sixes, 12 people in the lobby. If you take a random sample of 12 people, you're not going to have that wide of a skill differential between the lowest and highest KD, usually, statistically. Now, if there's no skill-based matchmaking, occasionally the 0.5 Andy is going to be in Tanner's lobby, and he's not going to have a great time. But also, Tanner might be on his team, and then he's going to do fine, because he's going to have all the streaks on his team. But most of the time, it's going to be the 0.5 Andy and a bunch of other 1.0 kids around there. And I don't think that skill differential is so massive where it would be like me playing at a fucking Lakers exhibition like scrimmage practice game. Because I agree with you. If I went to
misrepresent that.
Go ahead.
I think you misrepresent that just a little bit though, because if you go in a 0.5 lobby and you have a guy who has a 1.3 KD, he is legitimately going to ruin half of the other team's time. Even if there's one on each team, they're both going to. Yeah, but they're going to be separately ruining multiple people's times. It either needs to be tight at the bottom and keep all the trash together in a tight-knit circle until they move forward, or the real solution is the ranked mode. I mean, we all know that. It's just, I don't know why they haven't done it. And there are leaks coming forward of data mine shit about COD esports and COD 2020 already. So they should be looking at ranked modes for sure. It's fucking stupid that they looked at all the success Fortnite has had from in-game tournaments that you can sign up for and play in a ranked mode, and they did not implement it in some way where there's a cash prize. We have gunfight tournaments. I feel like that's their beta to that's why it's still in beta to see how they can run tournaments in their game.
Interesting.
And currently it's dog shit.
Interesting. Well, I mean, I don't know. So you're saying, again, like if you're a 0.5 Andy, most people aren't going to be as bad as you. If there's no skill-based matchmaking and you're a 0.5 Andy, you're probably the lowest KD player in the lobby, which means all of your teammates are better than you and will help you. And every time a 0.5 Andy comes across the best player on the other team, let's say he has a 1.3, yeah, he's going to get shit on every time in that 1v1. But it's not like COD 6s is a series of 1v1s. In fact, it is almost, I shouldn't say almost never, it is not often that way. The 0.5 Andy will team shoot, stay with the team, or not. They don't know what they're doing, obviously. But like, it's not like a 1.3 person ruins the average lobby. That is not true. And you've played every other Call of Duty besides this one, and you know that's true. You're usually, so in every other MW, or in every other Call of Duty besides this one,
I'm shitting on kids.
How often were you the best player in the lobby?
All the time.
Okay. So if you weren't in that lobby, who would become the best player? Someone with a 1.2.
My issue is I still don't have that problem on this game. The biggest SBMM issue I see is in Warzone. It really is. Like when I play multiplayer, like I meet people who are just as good as me, but I also usually end up top of leaderboard still. Like it kind of like I enjoy the competitive nature of it. Like I want to hear like Tanner's thoughts on it, because this is like one of the biggest debates about it. And really SBMM is good and it's bad. Like it's not a black or white issue. It just has to be done right. And this is not doing it right. I agree with you. This is terrible.
Tanner, how was your afternoon?
Yeah. This is funny. So I think skill-based matchmaking is actually,
by the way, Tanner, what's your lifetime KD? And you got Damascus, which ruins your KD. So what's your lifetime KD in multiplayer?
It's like 2.13 or something, I think, right now.
So
top. So
99.2nd percentile, by the way. Go on.
I think that multiplayer skill-based matchmaking is way worse than Warzone skill-based matchmaking. I mean, first of all, Warzone, there's way more players. So I don't think it takes as much into effect. So I tried earlier, everyone in our Discord, join the fucking Discord. Today was talking about the Bruin again, as everyone does every day. And as I've always said, don't care, not gonna get it, don't fucking care. Today I decided, you know what? Maybe I'll try to get it. I'll work on it before the podcast. So I hopped on. I did shoot the ship. I set up a SA-87 class with a thermal and smoke grenades. And after 5 lobbies, I rage quit every single one of them. It is not possible to play one single game if I'm not using a meta weapon. I'm not kidding. Every single lobby, I mean, the people I'm going against, 90% of them have Damascus. They're all running around with 10mm MP5 setups with fucking phase jerseys on, jumping, sliding around corners, destroying me as I'm sitting in a smoke trying to get kills with the SA-87. So for me, it ruined my afternoon. It made me furious because it's just like the most of the time I do hop on and I play with a good weapon because that's what's fun. But if I don't want to do that and I need to do something like go for Damascus or work on a weapon unlock, I literally can't do that without playing like 5 games and just getting shit on before I get placed in a lower lobby. I mean, I rage quit every single game within probably 4 minutes at the absolute most. One game I rage quit within 2 minutes. I mean, it was all MP5. It was all Damascus MP5s. Fucking fire, flaming fire shotguns, fouls. Just everything.
I totally agree with your point, Tanner. I totally do. But the issue that I keep like trying to point to is that it's not tight in the bottom. The bottom is a big fucking group, and the top is a tight group like this.
Well,
like
if it's such a big group in the bottom, that kind of defeats your point about these lower tier players should really like skill-based matchmaking. Because a 0.9 player is going to shit on a 0.3 player just as hard as a 1.8 player is going to shit on a 0.3 player. So what you're saying is, if it's so loose at the bottom, it's not helping them anyway. Therefore, get rid of it, right?
No, it helps them because you watched that video, right?
Yes. Yeah.
There was one guy in that lobby who was clearly above everybody else in that lobby. I don't know how he got in there, but I'm just letting you know, bro. That's what some of those lobbies look like. I went to my dad's and hopped on his, and it was fucking like that. And I was like, what?
The thing is with me too is at the end of the day, I would 10 out of 10 times take a ping-based lobby, connection-based lobby over a skill-based lobby.
Especially absolutely made this point, and it's such a great point.
I know. I was gonna. Yes. No. He put it in the chat. He was talking about it. That was my next part of it too. Tanner,
I mean, it's especially prevalent in Warzone. Like, there's a lot of people playing this game. Warzone has large lobbies, but still, like, the amount of lobbies in Warzone I have to play that are 70 plus ping. It's not that bad in multiplayer, but in Warzone, when it takes, 8, 9 bolts to kill somebody, me having 70 or 80 ping versus somebody else with 15 that I'm shooting against, that's horrendous. And in multiplayer, never, ever, ever should I have over 50 ping at the absolute most.
That is terrible.
And
that is
there's
terrible.
A bunch of times I have 70 or 80 ping. And it used to be 70 was pretty average back in, the old PC gaming days, but that's not the case anymore. So many people play, and with cross-platform and everything.
Everyone
like the amount of lobbies with
ping.
high ping. Yeah, the amount of lobbies I get put in with high ping is fucking ridiculous. And there's absolutely a difference between 70 ping and fucking 15, 20 ping. And if you don't think that's true, you're a dumb shit. It's as simple as that. You also probably don't see the difference in 60 frames per second and 200 frames per second.
That makes a good point to what I was going to say. I think we all have predispositions based on biases before we had this debate, because I've been a console player my whole life. I can tell you straight up right now, the SBMM, without playing with a PC player in my lobby, is not as obvious. It really is not as obvious. Since I played on PC, bro, I'm telling you, it is. I'm going against fucking gods every game. And it's okay. Like, I'm okay with it because like you guys pointed, somebody said it in the chat. Let me see if I can point it out. They said something about a third and a third and a third, and they were dead fucking on.
While you look for that, another problem with skill-based matchmaking, it's very gameable. So if you're a 0.3 Andy and then you find yourself in a Korean Savage YouTube video, boy, you're not going to have a fun time. You'd rather see Korean Savage. If you're a 0.5 Andy, you'd rather see Korean Savage on the other team in a non-SBMM game than an SBMM game. Because in a non-SBMM game, you're going to have average players. They're all better than you if you're a 0.5 Andy. That can actually help you kind of deal with this guy who's good at the game. Versus a skill-based lobby where everyone's 0.5 except the guy who's gaming skill-based matchmaking, Korean Savage, for his YouTube montage, where he gets a no attachment Akimbo's Deagle triple nuke on fucking Shoot the Ship because he gamed the system and just destroys everyone.
Any reverse boosters in the chat?
Any reverse
boosters in the chat?
Now, I will concede that's not that big of a deal because most people aren't pieces of shit who game skill-based matchmaking. It's not worth the effort. So, fair. But still, it is gameable. And if it does get gamed, your lobby is ruined.
I just think that you've realized tonight that the argument's a lot deeper than you thought it was. Like, there's a lot involved with this shit. SBM, okay, so most of your arguments against SBMM is the fact that it is done terribly in this fucking video game.
What would constitute SBMM
your
done
argument,
well?
Your argument right there is just saying that if you're on a 0.5 team with everybody on your team with a 0.5 and the other team gets the 1.2 Andy, that you're fucked. Well, if SBMM was done right, that would never fucking happen.
But what about the connection issue?
The connection issue is a huge one, and I definitely agree with that.
But
connection is priority. Connection is priority over SBMM. You should have a wide range, and you should be able to have that. I don't know. I'm not a fucking dev.
No, but what I'm saying is there are only so many people who are between a 0.3 and 0.4 KD queuing for shoot the ship at 9:21 and 30 seconds PM who also have 30 ping or less and are in that range close to each other such that they could all have the same connection.
I think at that point, you're still benefiting. Yeah, keep going.
Even with crossplay, you're not going to be able, you can't have strict skill-based matchmaking like you're advocating for and good connections. You have to pick one. Even with crossplay, there are only so many people who are in a tight, narrow band of skill-based matchmaking that are queuing for your exact playlist at that exact time, who are also so close to you that you all have within 20 milliseconds of the same ping. Even with crossplay, you can't set the skill-based parameters too strictly if you want to prioritize connection. So you have to pick one.
Yeah, I agree. You have to pick one, and that's part of the reason why this Call of Duty's skill-based matchmaking is dog shit.
But if you pick connection, then the net is going to be too wide for what you're advocating for. You're saying
that's okay.
But you just said that skill-based matchmaking at the lower end needs to be more strict. But I'm saying it can't be if you want to prioritize connection.
What I'm saying is that connection should still be prioritized, but the whole idea is to make these suck-ass players think that they can play. If they get in a bad lobby and get their ass kicked every night, you got to think about it from Activision's standpoint. They're trying to make fucking money.
Sure.
You got to keep these people motivated to try to play this fucking game. So if you're just getting constantly shitted on, there's no way you're going to pick up the game and be like, after work, I'm going to drink a beer and play some Call of Duty Modern Warfare where I just get dicked down every night. There's no way you want to do that for enjoyment. You're going to go play a single player game. And they're slowly but surely trying to get back to their roots of a wonderful campaign to bring people in and then a multiplayer to keep you around. That's how it should be, in my opinion. I buy these games for campaign.
Look, I understand your point, and I do sympathize with the plight of a new frog who is just, even if there is no skill-based matchmaking, even if everyone's 1.0 in a lobby and you're a new frog, you're going to get shit on, and that's not fun. And Activision's trying to combat that. I understand that, and I totally agree, and I think you're right. And some people don't want to improve, which is another good point that you implicitly made, which is because my argument was, well, you're not going to get better if you're playing against a bunch of other shit cans because you're going to learn bad habits that you can get away with only against shit cans. And you said, okay, well, a lot of these casuals don't care about getting better. Fair. Good point. So I think the best way, though, to help these players is not skill-based matchmaking, but it is instead something that has been done before. I don't know if it's in Call of Duty or maybe in other games, but you have a playlist called Boot Camp. Where
yeah, it is in COD.
It was from COD. Yeah. So like,
COD started it.
You have to be level 40 or lower in multiplayer to queue for this. And also, if you queue for Boot Camp because you're new in this game, but you've been playing Call of Duty for 20 years, if you play a game of Boot Camp and you get a 60 KD, then it it automatically flags you and says you're done with boot camp. You're too good. but if you never get flagged, we can talk about the parameters. But if you never get flagged, you're allowed to play in this boot camp playlist where only new frogs are allowed to play. I think that's a better solution to
I love it.
To that issue than skill-based matchmaking.
I love it, but at the same time, it's just not persistent. Like it's a very complex issue with a lot of variables, and it's not even like, you know, as gamers who are good, we don't think about it as an issue, you know. But these companies that are developing these games are thinking about it as an issue because they want to appeal to all markets. Right now, they don't appeal to all markets, and they have to find a way to get casual people in. That's not just a boot camp playlist, because my dad could go play that boot camp playlist and then get out of it and then just never fucking touch the game again.
Yeah.
You know, it's not even all about old people like my dad, though, either. There are legitimately people who have played video games for as long as us guys who are just fucking trash. I mean, it's just a fact.
Yes.
Some people are not good. Some people don't have good reflexes. Some people aren't. It's just how it is. And they want to appeal to everyone. And that's why you see games like Fortnite being successful and all that. It's not just a free to play. It's that the game looks like a fucking cartoon. Your kid could play it. You could play it. And anyone could play it. Mm-hmm. That's what they're trying to go for with everything. And I'm so against skill-based matchmaking at its core. But when it comes to when you really think about what it could do for people like that, you know, I think everybody should be able to enjoy playing video games past the point of just playing a single player. So I get it. Like, my dad's never been able to play an online multiplayer game because he will get fucking shit on. And I've told him that forever. He fucking is one of those guys that if you run in front of his face, he'll spin in the circle and like, you ever seen somebody who's not good at games and they'll have the controller in their hand and it looks like they're fucking driving a car? Like,
and they're
anything
like
that happens,
their whole,
exactly, dude. There's people like that out there, and we
Korean
have to.
Savage.
And somebody made the point earlier. There's a third of each. There's people 0.5 and below. There's people 1.0 and right between 0.5 and like a 1.2, and that's another third. And then you have the other third, which is a massively different.
Yes.
Different. Like, the people at the bottom are very similar. People at the top are very different.
True.
The people with 5 KDs they will fucking shit on me in a 1v1 anytime. And I have a 1.9. Like, I'm not far off Tanner. Like you said, 99.2 percentile. It gets very, very defined up there. And it's going to be a long, ugly process. Trust me. I mean, just based on how it looks already. Unless every game adds a ranked mode, which could be an issue too, because any COD game that's had a proper ranked, you go to play a public game, there's still fucking sweats loaded in that bitch with a full team of 6. They're ready. Yeah. They're practicing. Yeah. So it's a very complex issue, and I try not to shit on developers for it. It's not their fucking fault. Fuck Activision.
Well,
fuck them.
Okay, I'll say one more thing and then I'll let you have the last word because I wanna wrap this up. But we'll go to Tanner after me, and if he has anything to add. But
I think that was my last word. I'm good. You can wrap yours up.
Okay. So I played Black Ops 4. This was my first shooter on PC, and I was dog shit. Now, granted, I was never a 0.5 Andy. My KD in Black Ops 4, it wouldn't be reflected in the stats because the KD was dumb in that game and it counted assists as kills. But when I first started, this won't be reflected in the stats because everyone's BO4 KD, by the way, is lower than what your combat record says. So my KD when I first started was probably 0.9, maybe. All right. Not great. Hey, not great. And I couldn't even get a Ruthless medal, which is a 15 kill streak in Black Ops 4 until Prestige 5. Because this was my first shooter on PC. Prestige 5. That is a lot of fucking hours in that game. With no skill-based matchmaking, by the way. No skill-based matchmaking. So I was this 0.9 Andy who was just mediocre. But I kept playing, and I kept playing against players who were way better than me. And eventually, I got better because I was playing against players who were better than me, and I was learning from them. Okay, well, this guy is never in this area of the map. Maybe I shouldn't go there. This guy's using this gun. Maybe I should use this gun. This guy always uses this operator. Maybe I should do that, etc. Eventually, I got way fucking better than when I first started. And I could queue for Black Ops 4 tonight and get a 15 kill streak. Easily. Whereas before, it took me until Prestige 5. Fucking months of playing this game. Months. And I couldn't get a 15 kill streak. Now I could do it in one sitting. Because I got better. Because there was no skill-based matchmaking. If there had been skill-based matchmaking in BO4, I'm not sure I ever would have improved. Because I would always just be playing against other kids like me, and I wouldn't have anything to learn from those kids. Now, I accept Doug's point that most players, most casuals, most people who are shit because they're casuals, and they don't want to learn and they don't care about learning and getting better because it's just a video game and they don't take it that seriously, which is the correct attitude to have toward video games, by the way. Welcome to the Dropshot, you fucking nerds. You're all losers, just like Tanner and I, who actually care about improving at a frivolous hobby like a fucking video game. So, fair. What I would wrap this up in saying is that there are so many problems with skill-based matchmaking that even if I were to concede that it does fix some issues for shit-tier players, which I don't concede, by the way, but even if I were to concede that, it does far more damage than harm to the player base as a whole. Therefore, it is not worth doing. And there are more creative and better solutions that can be implemented. So even if skill-based does help some people, which maybe it does, but I'm really not ready to concede that, and I really don't see it. But even if it does help some players, it harms a far greater proportion of players than it helps. And therefore, it is not worth having in the game and shouldn't be in the game. If it was like only the 95th percentile and up was negatively affected and everyone else was positively affected, then I would have to concede the argument. Skill-based matchmaking is good for the game, it's good for the player base as a whole. Unfortunately, it fucks me. But I do not see skill-based matchmaking that way at all. And I think it is more detrimental to greater than 50% of the player base. And if it's helpful to anyone, it is helpful to fewer than 50% of the player base. And that's why I think skill-based matchmaking should not be in the game. Tanner, anything to add?
As I said, I would just rather it be strictly ping-based. I mean, in Black Ops 4, we would have nights where we would win 10 games in a row every night. And then the next evening, we would lose 6 in a row because it was just completely random, essentially. And I was fine with that. Low ping is the biggest factor compared to anything. I think there is an argument to be made that it does help the very low tier players, like 0.5 and below. I think it may help them, but at the same time, there are so many people playing that even if you're 0.4 and you're playing versus a 0.6, it's not a huge difference playing against a 0.6 than a 0.9 or a 1.0, which is what you're going to get matched up against typically, because that's average.
Exactly.
And
if there's no skill base, you'll have 1.0s on your team to help you also. So it's like, it washes out. I don't know. Anyway, go on.
All I know is all the good PC streamers that I know of get absolutely furious playing this game because of skill-based matchmaking. And yeah, it's because they want to do good, but at the same time, it's just, if they want to make a YouTube video using a certain weapon class, you literally can't unless you're Korean Savage and many other console YouTube creators, because they don't reverse boost like Korean Savage does. Get shit on, Korean Savage. We haven't mentioned you in a while. Get shit on, you stupid bitch. But yeah, so I mean, it's just, we know personally so many PC streamers that have just uninstalled the game and given up on it because it's not fun for them unless they're using an MP5 every single game. So that's what I know about it. Bottom line is I would much rather play on 20 ping servers 100% of the time versus 70 ping servers and
Korean Savage. If you ever see this, I don't subscribe to that.
Well,
you don't think Korean Savage?
There's
reverse
literal
boosts?
there's
I'm
literal
not,
proof
not discussing
in
it.
numerous videos.
Not discussing it. That's what I'm saying. But I don't have it. I don't agree. I don't consent.
That's fine.
That's not Modern Warzone's opinion.
No, that's fine.
The opinions
that's my
expressed on
opinion.
the Dropshot do not necessarily express the views of
at Tanner
Modern Warzone.
Dropshot thinks Korean Savage is a reverse booster, and I know he is. So, anyways,
at Razinon also thinks that. So, anyways, I know you said we would have the last word, but Doug, if you have anything to add, now's the time.
No, it was wonderful, dude. That was a good debate.
That was
I
fun.
enjoyed it.
That was fun, actually. Yeah,
I think I surprised you a bit.
with the skill-based matchmaking you actually did, there are a few things there to consider for sure. I think we would need more data more than anything.
Yeah, that's the biggest issue, and I think that's the issue that all these companies are facing, is that it just started a few years ago, and to get real data, you know, that takes a fucking while. I don't care if there's 60 million people playing, you have to see trends over time.
Yeah.
And right now it's making them a fuck ton more money. So everyone, like, I can tell based on the chat that people think that I subscribe and that I'm a huge fan of it. And I'm not a huge fan.
Yeah,
I just try to look outside of my perspective and think about them as a company. And I understand why it's a thing. And I understand why Destiny 2 had it now and removed it. Destiny 2's been struggling. They had to do something to get some media attention. But the fact is, if they had 60 million people still playing their game, skill-based matchmaking will still be there, bro.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, and yeah, so yeah, for all of you listening, Doug's not a huge fucking fan of skill-based matchmaking, especially in its current iteration, but he is playing the devil's advocate.
I think it can work. I think it can work, and I think also that it does need to be sort of implemented in non-ranked. Okay, I play Rocket League. You guys don't play Rocket League. Rocket League has rankings for non-ranked, and it has rankings for ranked. But the vibe is extra different between playing a social game versus playing a ranked game. And that's what it really needs to be. But the issue is that COD people are so sweaty and that we always want to be on top. And that's half of this argument that we've been having. And it just... I see a lot of the COD, even if we add a ranked mode, I see a lot of fucking full teams going into socials to get content. That's how I see it going for Call of Duty, at least. Call of Duty has a different community than most. They're all moving towards the toxic, I hate game developer side, but Call of Duty is way ahead of its time in that aspect. They fucking, as evidenced by this podcast, we love to shit on the developers.
True. Yeah. I would love to just praise the developers, and I hope I do in COD 2020, but I haven't seen COD 2 this year.